It's officially been 1 year since we bought our 2022, I say our now, because it's turned into mine and Mrs. O's, what we call the battle bus. In my world, in her world, it's a souped up golf cart, no lie. That's what it is in our circles. But we're going to talk about some of the things I like about it, some of the things I don't like about it, the upgrades we've done to it to make it the battle bus that it is today. I'm also going to try and answer some of your questions that you've had for me about how I did things, how it's working out, what I think about them, and things like that. So since the most recent thing we've done was get a snow plow for the front, I'll start there. And what I was calling the tow hitch in my last video. My stool is rolling down the driveway, so let's get to it. So it's almost like springtime out right now, but a couple weeks ago we had a little bit of snow. So I went out and I purchased the Super ATV snow plow. Let me tell you, this thing is great. It's awesome. It's strong. It works really well. However, I may have been a little too tough on it. Maybe not. People say you have problems with your winch rope. Of course, I had the wire rope. That's what comes stock on the 2022 UForce XL. And the problem that I run into beyond breaking my rope, if we look at it from this angle here, you can see that not necessarily the mount, but that's like part of the frame of the UForce. It's bent outward just a little bit. And let me tell you, I totally destroyed, again, whatever that piece is called. It's different now because, as you can see, I now have synthetic rope there where it bent. There's a little rust from where it bent down there. But other than that, the winch itself did really, really well. So no complaints on that. It all worked really well. Just in case we get another snow, you'll see my plow mount is still on there. Maybe I was calling this a tow hitch because right here is where your front tow hitch receiver thing is. It's typically right there, but it's now replaced with the snowplow hitch. Second most recent thing we did was install the light bar you see up there. So basically my son got me this light bar for Christmas. I think it's a 20-inch light bar, but it fits perfectly with the curves of the roof of the UForce. Initially I was going to put it down here in the bumper, but it was just a little too wide for that. But I actually think it looks really good up there. We brought our wire down and through there. You'll see here it comes down. I'm gonna tape this up a little bit better, but it comes down here. This is where it's all grounded. So this is the wire coming out of the light bar, and then this is my power cable. Of course, that's my ground, so it's grounded to that same screw. Power cable comes down. We basically got it zip tied like the mounts for the windshield is actually a mount for my wire. We're not going to take the hood off and everything today, but as you see, that's the way where it eventually goes down, hooks into the fuse bank over there. Hood also comes out and back under the hood, and that is our switch for the light bar. When the key's on, I've got the switch set up where it's always illuminated. It's also illuminated when the light bar is on. It's very bright. Can't really see it in the camera, but yes, the light bar is really, really bright. So it's down when it's off, it's up when it's on. So that's how our light bar is actually wired in there. Super ATV A-arms. So I have to say, I like these. I like the look that they actually give. It does give it a much wider, in my opinion, meaner stance to the UForce there with those A-arms on there. So I like that a lot. I think they look really, really good on there. I haven't done anything stupid like I did to break the original A-arms, so I can't comment as to whether they're as strong or stronger. But when you compare them side by side, and I've done that in another video, these are much heavier and much more substantial. And yes, you do need the brass bushings to be able to put these A-arms on the XL model. The XL model of the UForce is different. You have to have the brass bushings. I recommend getting those from RNG. Now, that brings me over to this, the rust. It's just everywhere. Yes, my UForce is stored outside. Most times it is covered, but the rust, it grows on certain spots very, very quick. I guess that's just to be expected, probably to be expected even if it was kept inside, but you do see rust. The other thing I'll say about the Super ATV A-arms is, yes, they are squeaky. This is where you need to hit it with the silicone spray. And then also around basically all of these joints down in here. When you do that, the silicone spray seems to keep it really, really quiet. As you can still see, it's heavy at my grease points. You can still see the heavy grease. So I got this greased and serviced. Everything that the owner's manual said should be done to the UForce, I had done to it at the near the end of fall, in like October and November of last year. So that's 2023. So I had all of those things done by the dealer at that time. So theoretically, I should be in good shape. So if you watched any of my previous videos, you'll remember, or you'll see that I had a engine problem at one point. And right over there, that little box that you see right below those red and black wires that you see there, that's keyed on power. And I had my whip lights, my remote wire for my amp, that's the blue wire that you see there. I had all of those things powered by the keyed on power from that power source. Come to find out, that power source is coming from your main harness, basically going to your ECU. In doing this, I essentially killed the power, or fried the wires that supply power to that injector back there. That's what was causing me the engine problem. So here's one of your first question and answers coming up. So many people ask me, how are my whip lights now powered? Well, my whip lights and everything, they're still powered by the back here. But what we did is that blue remote wire, see, I think I might be able to reach it. Yeah, you can't really see it from here, but that blue remote wire that used to go to my amp, it's now tapped into power from the front, and that gives me power back here in the back. So my whip lights are really powered up to keyed on power the same way. And the way I have them wired up on this, going along with the main wiring harness, is still exactly the same. So nothing changed there. The only thing that's changed is we're no longer using this power source right here to power anything. Now, my rock lights and my amp, they're still powered directly from the battery with a fuse link coming off the battery. As you can see, it's one there for the amp. We have a, what do you call that? Capacitor, circuit, whatever. That's for the rock lights there, and then the rock lights, they have fuse power coming off of the battery as well. Now, the way everything in my UForce is wired up is basically going with the flow of the factory wires. So all the factory wires from the battery here basically flow down and they go up through the center of the machine with the drivetrain. You can access that easily by taking out the center console, and then you'll do the same thing in the front. And as you can see, you might be able to see right in there, there's a couple red wires that are actually coming out. Those are the ones that are actually going to the switch that is powering my light bar. So my light bar, it's powered from the front here on keyed on power. Only my rock lights and my amp are powered from the battery. But then the amp doesn't, of course, draw power until it gets the power from the remote. So we're talking about the amp. Let's take a look at the amp. So this is our amp. It's a 600 watt under the seat automotive amp. Is it waterproof? No, not necessarily. It's made for under the seat of a car. But I've kind of got it, it's like pressure mounted here in the front box of the front seat of the UForce. So you'll see that's where our wires, they basically are coming off of the amp. This blue wire you see going this way, that's the wire that is now giving us power from the front. We used to get all of our power, again, like I just mentioned, from the battery in the rear, okay? So that's where these wires used to come up and go down into the amp. But now we're getting power from this wire. I had a guy, he works at my dealership, he just did this for me really quick, just to get it powered back up. So I still haven't messed with that to get it dressed up and it's nice, because I like all my stuff looking like it essentially come from the factory. I know necessarily the way these blue wires come up, it doesn't look like that, but neither does the way that I have this amp mounted down here look factory either, okay? But as we continue on, if we look back up, we'll see that again, my remote wire and everything, they are actually going back down and into the tunnel here that goes along with the drive shaft. This little thing we see here, that was the center cap for my amp. Me and Mrs. O, when we were out the other day, I guess this just being out here in the weather all winter caused the glue to fail, and the center cap was kind of like bouncing along. We were like, what is that rattling? So we actually had to take that out. But other than that, the amp is held up for nearly a year. I think in a couple weeks it'll be a year that this amp has been under here, and we've been in some deep water with it in there. You can see some of the mud that's in the floor pan, but we have to be in really deep water before this is submerged. We've never been that deep. Okay, so carrying on, if we follow the RCA wires, they're actually coming up and they're going up the column, and they follow this up, and they're basically zip tied in over here to the Boss Audio soundbar that we have. So the Boss Audio soundbar does have the RCA jack, so that's what's going in and giving us the sound in our amp. It also has like the standard headphone jack, and then I forget what that is, and I'm not even gonna open it up and look. It can be hardwired in. You can't see it here, but also following down, coming down this column is the power wire. It goes behind the seats. And then we just have it hooked in to the 12 volt jack there in the back. I could hardwire it in, but I didn't know if I would like the sound bar, and I might want to sell it, so I didn't want to mess with the wires, right? So that's why I have it wired in that way. Initially, the sound bar, I say it's great, especially at low speeds and with your factory muffler and stuff. But at high speeds, the sound bar by itself, you know it's on, but you really can't understand unless you really know the song, even what song you're listening to. So once we added the Walmart amp, it's almost like you have surround sound front and rear. I mean, it's remarkable. So if you're looking for, another answer to a question, if you're looking for cheap sound, okay, my dealer did cut me a deal on this, so I got it for under 200 bucks. But I think you can get this for around 200 bucks. Again, I think this is the 20-inch Boss Audio RGB. So it does have like red, green, blue LED lights that power up. My phone is not going to connect to it right now, but power up when it comes on. That also automatically makes my amp power up. It lights up. You can turn the lights on, off, whatever you want. Doesn't really matter to me because, again, you never see the amp. So if you're looking for cheap audio, sounds really good, Bluetooth to your phone, the Boss Audio soundbar along with this power acoustic. Like I said, I picked this up at Walmart. I think it cost me right at about 100 bucks, maybe 125 bucks. So even if it gets wet and it's destroyed, like I said, I've had it for a year now, 125 bucks, not that bad, 80 watts. So decent sound, cheap price. I've got about 300 bucks into the whole system. Since I had my 5150 whips hooked into keyed on power, I didn't need my switch for the 5150 whips. So therefore, I just used that switch to power my rock lights. I can't remember what brand my rock lights are, but again, in the previous video where I showed the install on the rock lights, I gave you the brand at that time, so you can refer back to that video to see what the brand was. So back to the whip lights. You may notice that my whip lights are not on my tailgate anymore. That's because if you look at my previous video, I really expressed my disappointment in the 5150 whip lights. That's because mine were totally malfunctioning. So I went through the lifetime warranty process that comes with the 5150 lights. This started about 3 weeks ago now. So it took me 2 days to get my RA number to send the whip lights back to them. Once I got my RA number, I was shipping them from Beckley, West Virginia. Cost me about, I think it was 60 bucks. And it took them from Monday until Friday to get there. So they would have received them Friday of last week. So Friday of this week, which was 2 days ago for me, is Sunday today. They would have received the whip lights, or they would have had the whip lights for a week. So they've had them for a week now. I haven't heard anything back. So I had the 2-foot light. A 2-foot light literally cost me $200. So it just makes me wonder. The warranty process is so difficult, time-consuming, and costly, because once they finish repairing my whip lights, I will have to pay, I think they charge $25 or something. The website says per whip light, but they promised me I only had to pay, even though I had to send them both of my whip lights, I only had to pay the one fee. I think it's $25. So they're able to ship them back to me a lot cheaper than what I shipped it to them. The disconnect mount, couldn't figure out how to get it disconnected from the lights. But one thing they mentioned to me about those lights is they're really not intended to be left on your vehicle if you leave it outside. So technically, when you're finished using your vehicle, you should take the whip lights off, is basically the way I understand it. So we are sitting on the factory wheels with the 30-inch BFGs. We've got 1.5-inch wheel spacers on the front, or maybe 1 inch, and 2 inch on the rear. I would like to go a little bit wider on the rear, but I was told 2 inches is what's recommend it not to have problems with ball joints or anything like that. So trail and street, we haven't had an issue. Any ball joints, tie rod ends, or anything like that whatsoever. Super ATV flip up windshield. So I just did another video on this. Anytime we're on the trails especially, and of course the UForce is being tilted and twisted, we've got an issue with these. They just pop up and then your whole window pops up. It is so aggravating because we'll spend a lot of our time riding and holding this so that our windshield doesn't just blow open on us. So I kind of posted about that yesterday. So it's really making me kind of regret this windshield. However, in the summertime, when it gets hot in here and you can open that windshield up and just let the breeze blow in, it feels so good and it makes it all worth it. We also have a Super ATV rear window. It's tinted. Really like it, no complaints on it whatsoever. Actually, in the wintertime, it keeps you pretty nice in here. And it does get warm in the summertime just because of the engine heat. Other than that, my only real complaint about it, again, is just some of the rust that accumulates on some of the body parts and how the parts that are black, they don't really stay black. But like I said, a little SC1, I'm glad somebody turned me on to that. Just totally make all the blacks look brand new again. But that's basically it. Hopefully I answered a lot of the questions that people have asked me that I haven't already answered in the comments. If you have more, feel free to put them in the comments. Now that we're back into a new season, hopefully I'll be quicker and faster on answering the comments. If you haven't done so already, hopefully, please like, subscribe, share. Yeah, help me out. I'm telling you, peace.